Hello, everyone. My name is Valentina Mascione, and today I'm going to be talking to you about religion amid the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the central themes of the Religion 101 course is to try and answer this question: what is religion? However, the reality is that we may never truly know. I'm sure that many of you have formed your own perception or definition of religion. However, a universally agreed upon definition of religion has yet to be discovered. Needless to say, the authors of An Invitation to the Study of Religions have created a more expansive and less specific definition of religion, which states that religion is a cultural system integrating teachings, practices, modes of experience, institutions, and artistic expressions that relates people to what they perceive to be transcendent. So with that said, through our exploration throughout this presentation of various adaptations religious institutions have created in response to the current pandemic, we will see if we can narrow down some of the most essential elements that make up the essence of religion. As many of you may already know, the normalcy of everyday life has been interrupted by the current global spread of coronavirus or COVID-19. In order to slow the spread of COVID-19 and protect public safety, countries worldwide have enforced strict stay-at-home and social distancing measures. Therefore, potential threats to public safety, such as mass community-centered gatherings and events like religious services and ceremonies, have been canceled. As a result, world religions such as Christianity and Judaism have been forced to adapt their centuries-old traditions to the changing social circumstances that we currently find ourselves in, by finding less traditional means of maintaining a sense of community and conducting these services. It is also important to remember that these are just a few examples of many ways that religious communities worldwide have been adapting to current social restrictions, and they do not, by all means, represent the whole of one particular religion. According to the Pew Research Center, there are 2.18 billion Christians worldwide, which is around 32% of the world population. Christianity is split into three denominations: the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, and Protestant Christianity. Some of the core beliefs of Christianity are that it is a monotheistic religion, meaning that Christians believe in the existence of one transcendent creator God. Christians contend that Jesus is both the Messiah and Son of the Creator God, and that he is also the bodily incarnation of God. This concept is encompassed by the Holy Trinity, the idea that there is a single divine nature that expresses itself eternally in the persons of Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lastly, Christians believe that humans are universally prone to sin, and therefore sin is the fundamental problem of human existence, the only salvation being to believe, worship, and commune with God. Christians worship and commune with God in a multitude of ways, some of which include attending Mass to read Scripture and pray in a communal holy space, such as a church. They also celebrate the Eucharist, which was the Last Supper of Jesus Christ, and Easter, which commemorates Jesus' ascent to heaven after rising from the dead after his crucifixion. As I mentioned earlier, in-person religious ceremonies and services have been canceled due to the potential threat of spreading the coronavirus at this time. As a result, expressions of faith and devotion to God in the Christian faith, such as sharing communion and hand-holding, have been suspended, as well as all other religious practices, such as Mass and communal prayer. This has led many Christian communities to substitute churches for virtual platforms, such as YouTube and Zoom, for their religious gatherings and practices. Most notably, Catholics around the world tuned into Pope Francis of the Catholic Church's virtual Easter Sunday Mass this year on April 12, 2020, which he broadcasted on YouTube. That being said, many priests have adopted a similar method by utilizing virtual platforms to conduct Mass and prayer in an effort to maintain a sense of community and spirituality in this difficult time. So the two images that you're seeing before you, the first image is of Pope Francis during his virtual Easter Sunday Mass this year. And figure 2, the one that my mouse is circling over right here, is an image of Roman Catholic priest Johannes Leichner blessing photos of his congregation after he had led a Mass to an empty church on April 6th, 2020 in Innsbruck, Austria. As you can see, there's images of the various families that attend his church. According to the Pew Research Center, there are around 14 million Jewish people worldwide, which makes up around 0.2% of the world population. Judaism was the first religion to be established of the Abrahamic religions, which include Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. The foundational beliefs of Judaism include a belief in ethical monotheism, that there is a single all-powerful creator God, which encompasses the four omnis, which are as follows. God is omnibenevolent, all-loving and all-good, omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent, meaning he is transcendent of space and time, and omniscient, all-knowing. Oftentimes, Judaism is described as more than just a religion, but an all-encompassing culture and ethnicity as well. That being said, Judaism is centered around a cultural love for God and a love for the community as a whole. This idea directly relates to the Jewish belief that God elected the Israelites, holding them to an obligation to uphold God's vision of the world. In addition, covenant describes the subsequent relationship that is formed between God and the Jewish people as a result of their election. That being said, a central element of Jewish faith is the mitzvot, or commandment, which are included in the Tanakh, or Hebrew Bible, the Torah, and refers to the guidelines regulating all domains of life commanded by God. At the heart of the mitzvot are the 10 Commandments, also known as the Decalogue. Important Jewish religious practices include attending Shabbat services at synagogues, participating in a Seder, the communal meal commemorating the beginning of the Passover holiday, and attending the high holidays, such as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. As one could expect, the coronavirus has led to the cancellation of many in-person communal Jewish ceremonies and services as well, across the world and in the United States. That being said, the Jewish community has found many creative ways to adapt to the various social restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, at a time of global quarantine, the Jewish meditation practice of Hitbodidat, or self-isolation, first popularized by Rebbe Nachman Breslov, have gained popularity. In addition, in an article published by Michigan State University this past April, Assistant Professor of Religious Studies Laura Yarez explains the fact that traditional Jewish law for daily prayer service requires the physical presence of 10 adult males. However, the current health crisis that we're in has made this impossible, prompting Jewish leaders to reframe the centuries-old Jewish law to encompass technology such as Zoom and YouTube as a substitution for physical presence. Lastly, in light of the social restrictions due to the current pandemic, Eilit Lieber, director and chief curator of the Tower of David Museum in Jerusalem's Old City, decided to create a virtual reality experience of the Holy City, giving viewers the ability to virtually visit and worship at Jerusalem's holiest sites and festivals. This image depicts a Jewish family adhering to social distancing guidelines on April 8th of this year by virtually celebrating the Passover Seder meal with their extended family. As you can see, here's the immediate family, and here's their extended family over what looks like a Zoom or potentially a FaceTime call. According to the Pew Research Center, there are around 488 million Buddhists worldwide, making up around 7% of the world population. There are many important ideologies of Buddhist thought, but I've narrowed it down to a couple that I think are the most notable. Buddhism is understood as a non-theistic religion, meaning that Buddhists reject the singular all-powerful God accepted by Judaism and Christianity. As a result, Buddhism is often emphasized as more of a philosophy or way of life for many people, rather than just a religion. In addition, the three marks of existence, Antiya, the concept that everything is impermanent, including life, dukkha, or suffering, embodies the Buddhist belief in samsara, or the cyclical experience of suffering that is brought on by our denial of life's impermanence, which we then permeate through our burning craving for any sort of permanence in our perception of reality. And lastly, anatman, or non-self, the concept that your sense of self is illusory. Rather, our sense of self is merely a product of the reality in which we live, and is constantly in flux due to the impermanence of all things. Said to have been created by the Buddha himself, and viewed as some of his most fundamental teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path serve as a clear guideline for people on how to navigate and circumvent suffering in life and eventually reach nirvana, the ultimate goal in Buddhism. For many people, the COVID-19 pandemic has served as an eye-opener to the impermanence of life. Similar to the Buddha's life before he left the shelter and comfort of his father's palace, the privilege of life before the COVID-19 pandemic insulated many of us from disease, death, and poverty. However, it seems that the existential elements of life that were often previously ignored are now at the forefront of public awareness in countries worldwide. According to Christopher Ives, the unpredictability of the pandemic, as well as its effects on our current reality, can offer stark lessons in impermanence, as well as the interconnectedness of all living things. That is to say, the pandemic emphasizes the Buddhist belief in the interconnectedness of the world. COVID-19 was a product of the state of the universe and the causal connections that make up our current sense of reality in the 21st century, such as globalization, international relations, and trade, as well as capitalism. Nevertheless, by examining the pandemic and its effects through a Buddhist lens of acceptance, we are able to better understand the impermanence of life, prompting us then to develop a greater appreciation of our current existence as a result. Overall, religions worldwide have created diverse ways of adapting to the COVID-19 pandemic, such as virtual mass gatherings and virtual reality experiences that have given quarantined spectators the opportunity to maintain a sense of community and culture throughout this period of uncertainty. And with that said, through our exploration in this presentation of the various adaptations religious institutions have undertaken in response to the current pandemic in order to maintain a sense of community, despite the current and historical challenges they have faced, highlights some essential features of religion and its essence overall. As a community-centered concept founded upon the broader interconnectedness that members of one religion share due to their common beliefs and practices. Furthermore, the current pandemic as a whole highlights the interconnectedness of the broader human community in which we are all facing, in that we are all facing this pandemic together, and we are all being affected by it in some way, and how all of the changes that have happened in the past 2 months have helped us to better understand the Buddhist view of life as both impermanent and interconnected. From this perspective, and after reflecting on this fact, we are now able to feel a greater appreciation for life and everything in it, despite the adversity we face at this time. Thank you for listening. Now, before I end this presentation, I just wanted to acknowledge the funkiness of this whole virtual version of Omni, and I thought it might be interesting to answer some of the questions that may have come up if I were to be giving this presentation in front of a live audience. So here are some of those questions. 1. Do you think that the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted the ability of world religions to engage in worship? Well, I think that this question brings up the idea that religion is a spectrum of belief, and whether you believe in a strict interpretation of your religion and its practices or not, or maybe you're in the middle. I don't know. The point is that if you have a strict interpretation of your religious text or beliefs, then depending on the importance of being physically present in a holy site to worship and commune with God, you may feel as if virtual platforms are not enough, and therefore COVID-19 has negatively impacted your method or practice of worship. However, there are others that think you can be anywhere to connect with God. So COVID-19 wouldn't affect their method of worship so much. It all comes back to ultimately where on the spectrum of religious belief you are. Will we ever be able to decide on a definitive definition of religion? Well, I think it's hard to say because religion is so many different things to so many different people. I think it would be difficult to settle on one sentence or two in an effort to capture all of that diversity or belief. As I noted in this presentation, religion encompasses a variety of concepts which are also closely intertwined with culture as well. So I think that because of that, it's hard to say that one definition is better than another, making it even harder to settle on one universal definition. Thank you so much for listening. Here are my works cited. And I hope you all have a great day. Enjoy Omni.